The future belongs to those who dare, those who will do extra. Hi, I'm Mark Croskery. Welcome to Business Dive Extra, the program that looks beyond dollars and cents to the movers and shakers in business. Today, we talk with a man who has kept pace with the rapid evolution of telecoms engineering and built a successful company which continues to go from strength to strength.
In terms of my dad being an influence in my life, he was a first generation engineer, and with my mom being an entrepreneur, I like that where you have full control over your time and your life. So I think where I'm at now is a little off both. So I'm joining forces with the engineering side and being an entrepreneur to create a business. Konnexx Services started with 2 team members, myself and another engineer. Initially it was very hard work because now we have to get into the business of providing quality of service, meeting the client's demand. In terms of determining the name Konnexx, even though it's spelled with a K, it's connecting persons, connecting technologies. Currently, we offer 24-hour telecommunication support services. In the past, we offered these services to Flow. Currently, we offer these services to Digicel, where we partner with them in delivering the Digicel-based services to its customers across the Caribbean. We also offer solar engineering services, where we help fellow corporate clients or residential clients to achieve their objectives in terms of reducing their electricity bill. We do equipment rental for persons who need lift equipment to reach places to paint or carry out various maintenance tenant services. And we're currently looking at other trending technologies to see how we can offer it. Every day at Konnexx, you're faced with challenges. So you have to have a positive mindset to achieve and resolve the issues so your customers are feeling good.
Let's meet our guest today, Mr. Dean Nevers, Managing Director of Konnexx Services. Dean, welcome to Business Dive Extra.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. What is a Konnexx brand about, and what does it represent to you, and just how did you get it started?
Well, the Konnexx brand is about providing quality and efficient technical support services to its client, and the concept came about years ago when I saw that most of the technical services being provided were being done by overseas company, and I saw that if someone took the lead in terms of bringing together the technical resources required, there could be a niche market there in terms of providing services that the telecoms company would require.
Right. Okay. And tell me about the colors. When you look at those vans that you have, some of the trucks with the buckets, you see these amazing colors on it. When I was at school, I was mentioning to you, I really idolized Jordan's Furniture, and it was a purple brand, and you had to have, the differentiating factor to be successful. And so your brand really pops out, and seeing it on your vans. What gave you really that kind of, vision to do that?
Well, ever since going to the Great Kingston College High School,
Yes.
I fell in love with the color purple because, the color purple signifies being brave, the Fortis spirit. Mm-hmm. And so I had to use the color purple. And the green that is there, the green is it complements the purple, more like a earth tone, and that's why I use the color green.
Right. So, Dean, when we look at Konnexx, what is really interesting with it is that you have 3 focuses, right? We have the telecom engineering, the network engineering, where you mentioned, the BPO space, business processing, and recently you've really kicked into gear, the solar division, right?
Correct.
But the telecom is, you know, the big space and where you've got going since 2003. You know, just walk us through maybe some of your larger clients, you know, and how you got into this since 2003.
Well, in 2005, so the concept started in 2003, but in 2005, I prepared a business plan that was bold enough to approach Flow at the time, that was doing infrastructure work to expand the fiber optics network across Jamaica. And I saw whereby, based on my knowledge, that there were lots of local engineers that if we came together, we could actually provide that services to Flow at a lower cost, and it would be a win-win situation in that we'd be creating jobs and Flow would be getting quality service from the local.
You would have grown up, you know, like many Jamaicans, seeing the JBC on the TV.
Correct.
With the transmitter going, you know, making the sounds all around the island. And you've really translated it now into your company, you know, offering these services. You know, you have your staff complement, really offering, you know, the telecom engineering all around the island. So in today's world now, you know, walk us through the telecom engineering. What really do you offer, you know, to your customers when we see these trucks on the road? What is your company doing?
So what we pretty much do is we would come in with all the expert/experienced construction engineer, and we would construct the network for our client. So when you see us in the streets pulling the fiber cables, we're actually, it's a part of the construction process to get the service into your homes or into your business place across the island. Yeah. So we'd start with a construction phase to build the network. After building the network, then we get into the next phase, which is to install the network in corporate businesses or residential homes, and that's the next gear. Then, of course, with any network, you will need maintenance work, right? And being in telecoms, it's a 24-hour thing where we all want our internet or data services or our phone services to be working 24/7, right? So if there is an issue, we have to have crews that can respond to the need within a matter of minutes.
So, you know, coming out of KC and everything, in your early years, where did you get going after high school and getting into the workforce? Where did you get going first?
Well, pretty much just outside of high school, Cable and Wireless started its expansion in Jamaica. And it was just at the right time when I was leaving high school as a teenager, and I got the opportunity to work with Cable and Wireless for over 10 years. And I got a lot of my telecom engineering training via Cable and Wireless Training College, which was very good. And they had other educational programs and grants where at the time where you could do studies in IT, network engineering, and so on. So I made use of those facilities and studied other telecom courses in fiber optic engineering, network engineering, and so on.
And during that time, is that really where that entrepreneurial bug bit Dean?
During that time, ironically, I saw during the expansion, we had a lot of expatriates in Jamaica working, and at the same time, you know, I had friends who were at UTech, just leaving UTech and so on, and they weren't working, and I was there thinking that, whoa, you know, pretty much if we come together with some type of a plan or approach, you know, be the leader, bringing the resources together, we could actually provide this type of services to a telecoms company, you know, in terms of technical support. So it was always in my mind.
So a very collaborative approach.
Yes.
You're about that from a young age. When you got there, how did you really get the funds to get into the business? You know, something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with is, you know, was it family and friends? Was it the bank loan? Or what really, you know, got this business started in, you know, the early 2000s?
Well, I started doing my research from before, and one of the things most young entrepreneurs would complain about is paying back that initial interest rates and so on,
Okay.
by getting a loan from a financial institution. So one of the things I did was I look around me to see what valuable assets that I have that I could dispose of.
Yes.
And I could get it back down the road, right? So I had 2 luxury vehicles at the time, and to me, motor vehicles are depreciating assets. So of course, they were the first on the list to go and thing to make this venture happen. So I pretty much sold those vehicles to get some additional cash flow. And at the time, I had recently gotten some cash from the Cable and Wireless Redundancy Plan. So it worked for me. So I pretty much put those resources together, and I was able to get some of the startup equipment that I needed to get things going. Yeah.
And what would you say, coming out at that time, interest rates were still really high from the late 90s, still in the early 2000s. You made this entrepreneurial, dive to get into the business on your own. What really gave you that motivation, and what encouraged you to do that when so many other young Jamaicans were still sticking to their 9 to 5?
Because even with the high interest rate, I always have a passion about creating jobs. And I had a passion to lead, and I wanted to do something that I could lead on, create jobs for youngsters leaving the university system. And you know what? I didn't make the high interest rates out there deter me. I had a plan, and you have to be brave, right? Or jump in. And even though at the time I had my finances, some of the finances available to me via my savings, I still made the bold move of engaging the bank in terms of negotiating reasonable interest rates if and when the time comes. Because at the end of the day, when you're going into business as an entrepreneur, the last minute thing doesn't work.
Right.
So even if you're not going to be using the funding initially, you want to ensure that you engage with your banker, a friend, whoever is going to lend you the money before.
Yeah.
Because planning is everything.
That's excellent. And we take our first break on Business Live Extra. More when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. Konnexx Services has been operational for the past 16 years. During that time, it has evolved to encompass telecoms, network, and solar engineering. The company has over 400 employees, a fleet of more than 100 vehicles, and operates in 6 Caribbean countries. Our guest is the Managing Director of Konnexx Services, Dean Nevers, and we are talking with him about the company's evolution. So Dean, tell us about, the 3 things that really, your company focuses on, Konnexx, network, engineering for the BPO space and other spaces, solar, as well as, telecoms engineering. Do you find that your team members have to upsell them, cross-sell them, or really how do these, products and services work for Konnexx?
Well, what we do is our core business is the telecom support services, which we do on a 24-hour basis for Digicel, our current major client. And we have to have the teams trained in good customer service, good work ethics to be able to provide a high level of service. Now, we also have, with the changing in demand in the telecom sector, our teams have to be continuously cross-trained so they can respond to the needs of the client as soon as it is required.
You know, old entrepreneurs always talk about sticking to your core. What does Dean Nevers live by? Are you sticking to telecoms as your core and trying to bring on some diversification with these network plays and solar plays? Or, you know, what is really your belief system and Konnexx's?
My belief system pretty much is that if you can help in terms of growth and creating jobs, why not invest in other areas? Yes, telecommunication network support is our core business. We're going to stick to that in terms of providing quality service to Digicel and its customers. But when you look around you, you hear about the need of solar engineering because the cost of energy is so high in Jamaica. So if you have the knowledge and you can create a division and train persons or bring in persons who have been trained by heart and give them the opportunity to work in an area that they love to develop Jamaica, why not? So we saw it fit where the government was expressing needs for expansion within the alternative energy market. So we took it up on ourselves that we wanted to invest in this area, and we have done that in terms of hiring young engineers,
right,
and giving them the opportunity to do what they love whilst helping the country.
Right. How does Konnexx stay ahead of the curve? Meaning that, you know, we've seen the competition with Digicel and Flow. You know, we've even seen, say, expats come to Jamaica with Google Wi-Fi phones now. You know, I've seen a number of these changes. How do you stay with it? How does your staff stay with it? And how do you stay ahead of the curve with this rapidly changing, you know, telecom game, you know, globally, not just in Jamaica?
Well, within Konnexx, I've always set the tone where I've given young folks joining the company the opportunity to grow, and we have a very good management team. And we have different departments that look at different needs. And one of the things that we also do is our own internal training. So once there is a need for training in a new technology, we actually have a program in place where all staff are exposed to this new training.
Right.
So if 3 months from now the need is there, we're able to respond to the need, and we're not left behind.
Right. What you know, what gets up Dean Nevers every day? What motivates you? What drives you? You know, you have on your racing shirt today. You know, Lewis Hamilton won the race today. He's a perpetual winner. I mean, what motivates you?
You know what? I love life, and being from a spiritual background, I would say I am thankful for life, and I pray each day when I wake up, thanking God for life, of course. And so I look forward to each day, and each day I try to see how I can give back to make it better. And so I'm excited about the next day.
Is it the profits, or is there a balance?
It has nothing to do with the profits. It's about being, you know what, having a good life. So if you think too much on, you know, you should never chase money, because that's the wrong concept. What you should think about is providing a good quality service, and based on you providing a good quality service, the returns will come. Well, in the earlier days, you know, I used to love the micromanaging. When you build something from the ground up, you tend to be caught up in the whole thing of micromanaging and nitpicking everything. But over time, you get to understand that it's good to give other persons the opportunity to grow. And I've been doing that. We established certain departments within Konnexx to handle certain functions, and you allow the managers to take charge, and that has worked. I also have an open door concept whereby no contractor or employee should be scared to come and talk to me and saying, yes, it has its pros and cons, but it works, you know. And that's a concept I use, whereby anyone having an issue, they can openly talk to me about it.
Right.
You know. So I think that's good for business.
Right. And how, is it a time where Konnexx is generating more ideas? Do you need to still be creative at this point, or are you satisfied with your current 3 main revenue streams? Where do you see the business going culturally when it comes to idea generation?
Well, we have a technology division or technology department, and pretty much what that department does is research new business ideas and send us the report each month for us to discuss it. So we're always looking at new ideas in terms of how to expand in these areas to create jobs and provide more technical services.
Right. Jump into the network engineering, or is it limited to the BPO space, or is it actually wider than the cabling or the business processing outsourcing? And are you experiencing exponential growth there, given what's happening with the call centers in Jamaica?
Well, what we do is pretty much to build a network infrastructure for the BPO space, right? And we have had several overseas potential clients reaching out to us for possible projects, doing projects in Jamaica. So it's ongoing.
Right.
And the more you're prepared, the more you can work with these external investors, and the more you can create jobs, which is what we want to do.
Got you. And these segments that we're speaking to at the company, are they all segments, or are there any subsidiaries that you have, or different companies, or have you kept it all in one pie at the end of the day?
Well, pretty much we kept everything is under Konnexx.
Everything's under there.
Pretty much.
And do you find yourself, Dean, that like some of the companies you've had to bring in new capital or new shareholders to keep competitive, or really you've been able to do it, with your existing shareholder base?
Well, pretty much with our existing shareholder base and with good support from Sagicor Bank, we have been able to maintain the ship being steady.
Excellent.
And above water.
And how important has it been, and giving advice to other potential young entrepreneurs, to have that primary banker or that banker on board during the years and during your growth expansion phases?
It's very important. No matter if you have private and personal funding, it's always good to have a backup plan. Because without a backup plan in place, if you have an immediate need, based on how the banking principles are, technically you can't just go into a bank today and expect to get the funding tomorrow.
Yes.
So pre-planning is very important. Even though you might not need the funds today, you might need it in a week time. So why not plan ahead?
Right.
And have it available if you need it.
Right. And going through that whole phase of how you started it, in 03, 05, where you're at today, more formalized with your banker, what's the main advice you give to a young investor, young entrepreneur along those lines of financing?
I would tell them, before you've run into the financial institution to say, hey, I need $1 million. First, look around you to see how you can raise the $1 million. Interest-free. It could be a friend of the family, or it could be your immediate family, or it could be even that car that you have that you can replace down the road. Just to prevent you from paying that initial interest rate to get things going, or until you get things going. But it's also important that even if you go that route in the initial stage, you still need to have the financial institution somewhere in the background where you at some point, if you need that help, and you can pull on. So that's very important.
Yeah, that's great. And we take another break on Business Live Extra. More when we return. Thanks for joining us on Business Live Extra. We're talking to Dean Nevers, Managing Director of Konnexx Services. Let's take a look at a typical day at Konnexx Services.
Konnexx Services Limited has been in operation since 2003, providing telecoms engineering, computer networking, and solar system solutions. We have over 100 trained and certified fiber engineers with a combined experience of over 20 years in the telecoms industry. We design the best network suited for you, as well as constructing, installing, and maintaining it for our customers, providing a turnkey solution. We offer professional solutions to our clients and 24-hour technical support. At Konnexx, the solar engineering team is fully certified and have completed over 100 projects island-wide for commercial and residential clients. We have the right fleet to do the job, consisting of crane trucks, bucket trucks, highest buses, and flatbed trucks. We have all vehicles that are required to complete any task efficiently.
In Jamaica, persons always complain about inefficiencies, how difficult it is to manage team members. How do you do it? And again, what's your advice?
Well, my advice is sometimes you have to work with your gut feeling when you're hiring persons, and I will always tell you, you have to give the next generation a chance to grow. And I've always believed that it's important when you give someone a responsibility, you give them the opportunity to carry out the task. Mm-hmm. And that's very important. And for me is, I've given my management team the responsibility to manage, and they've done a good job so far.
So, but give us a bit more detail. I mean, are there certain principles that, you have instilled in the company that have really made this? Is it that you've shown more trust than, say, the average Jamaican company? What has been, your way of actually getting this done when, we always see so many articles in the media, complaints of, issues, within organizations? Well,
internally we try to build on this principle, total quality culture. Mm-hmm. Do it right the first time. Mm-hmm. And pretty much if you do it right the first time, then you won't have to worry about doing it again. So we try to build on that concept from training and the supervisory body in terms of managing the quality of work that we do for our client. We really push that whole concept of doing it right the first time, and by sticking to that, it makes our life much easier, and our clients are much happier with the services that we provide.
Excellent. And I mean, Dean, you're still relatively young, so does a lot of the key man risk revolve around you, or are you kind of at that phase now where after these 15, 16 years, you're looking at business continuity planning and where does the business go over the next 10 to 15 years? Well,
I love handling the client relationship side of things in mm-hmm. terms of meeting with my clients, digital in terms of handling issues or resolving issues, and to ensure that the quality of work is always at a high standard, which is very important to its customers. So that, for me, is very important. Mm-hmm. And there is no reason to worry too much about succession planning if you have things in place from now in terms of adapting to new technologies. So you will always have your workforce being trained in new technologies where you can, if there is a demand, you can respond to it. That. Right. As I mentioned to you before, we have our technology research team that would bring new technologies to us for us to look at it.
And is that almost like an R&D team, like a research and development team?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And we would look at that, and if it makes sense, it's something that we would invest in for the future. Mm-hmm. So if SNL come to us, say they needed a service just off the bat,
yes,
we'll be able to respond next week.
Gotcha.
Because we're ahead of the game.
And I've heard you repeat that, you take service level agreements or SLAs very seriously. If Digicel calls you or someone calls you and says, we need to get this up and running in X number of hours, is that something that really has built your personal brand and the company brand?
Yes, that's the business.
Right.
That's what customers want.
So while we might be sleeping in Jamaica, your company is working potentially.
Yes, 24 hours a day, because we have to keep you guys happy, and we have been doing that.
And even on holidays or Sundays?
It could be New Year's Eve at 11:59.
Excellent. So, that takes us to, is it Dean Neva's culture and the company, is it a work hard, is it work smart, or is it both? What have you put in place in your team members?
I think the culture is work smart.
Mm-hmm.
If you work smart, you don't have to work too hard, right?
Was it always that way? Take us back again, 2003, 2005. Was it work smart, or is it now, at 47, things have changed a little bit in your life?
It was hard work, because there's a lot of things that you think you know or you didn't know, because you just started running. Mm-hmm. And it required us to be working over 20 hours a day. Mm-hmm. to understand our clients' needs and how important it is. And it was a learning curve for us, and it was challenging at times, because the telecoms network is built in all areas. Mm-hmm. And everyone is treated fairly. So it means if we have to go into X area to have the repairs done, we have to do what we have to do to get the repairs done.
You just have to get it done.
We have to get it done.
And that was 20 hours a day, including weekends?
Including weekends. And it was a learning curve for us. If it meant walking up a mountainside to have the services fixed, mm-hmm. we would put the teams together and walk it up the hillside to have it done. Yeah.
Right. What keeps you up at nighttime and the Konnexx management team? What makes you not sleep?
When you run a 24-hour business, sometimes you can get caught up in activities for the next day, or you're thinking about issues that you need to resolve for the next day, and you might have to be in conference calls or late meetings or late site visits to plan ahead for the next day. It just comes with the job, because it's a 24-hour job, mm-hmm. and it's not 9 to 5. So if it means you have to be planning at 11 p.m. to resolve an issue before 3 a.m., mm-hmm. you have to do what you have to do.
Got you. So that keeps you there. And you mentioned your mom and dad really as serious mentors, throughout your whole life. But, has it changed? In your 30s, your 40s, have you found new mentors? Have you found additional mentors? I mean, who do you have a lot of respect for now? Who has helped you really? Probably every 100 employees you add to the business. Who else do you look up to?
Pretty much, what I draw the positivity from people around me. Mm-hmm. So whether it's my family, whether it's the simple man I see on the street selling his fruits, being out there every day at 6 o'clock in the morning for us to buy that banana from him. Mm-hmm. I mean, that motivates me. Mm-hmm. Looking at my kids growing motivates mm-hmm. me too. And so I use what is around me to motivate me. The
positive energy.
Yes.
Anything. Okay. How do you define, do you feel you're successful now? And how do you define it? Do you want to be more successful in your 50s than you are now?
So success is relative. I really thought I was successful from an earlier age. Mm-hmm. And pretty much once you're happy, the success is there. So it's about happiness for me. And once I'm feeling happy, I think I'm successful. Mm-hmm.
And I come back to some of your numbers. I look at them as almost like KPIs. You have these You have these very attractive numbers in terms of, 400 team members, 100 fleet, your business size. Throughout this whole entrepreneurial course, really, what are the principles that, you live by now, if any, and what can you really share with the next Dean Nevers out there?
I think you have to be committed to the cause, right? So outside of being positive, you have to be positive. That's first. And you have to be committed to the cause. You have to be willing to work hard in everything that you do. For me, peace of mind is key, because if you can't sleep at night, how are you going to perform the next day? So having peace of mind, and for me it's very important, and that's why I mentioned the whole thing with spirituality and that peace of mind thing. It's very important, where you can get your rest and you're not stressing too much on other matters. Very important. Having the right people around you, very important for guidance. Don't get carried away with, because you're now in the game, it means that your social life has to be 10 times where it was before.
Right.
It's a false sense of security.
And what do you do for that balance? What are your hobbies? What do you do to de-stress?
Before I took up aviation, where I like flying, so I got my pilot license. And I was looking also for the business opportunities in aviation. But you know what? I'll stick to the relaxation side of it.
Right.
And thing. I love to swim, which was easy. And I've recently taken up the whole thing of seamanship. So I got my coxswain license from the Maritime Authority.
Okay.
So I can be on the sea and relax.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we take another break on Business Live Extra. More with Managing Director Dean Nevers when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. The renewable energy industry is one of the fastest growing in the world. It's sometimes referred to as clean or green energy and refers to solar, wind, and hydro generation. By 2025, it is expected to be worth $2.1 billion globally. Jamaica is making some progress. Renewables account for between 15 and 20% of the energy supply. The government has set a target of 50% of energy use generated from renewable resources by 2030. Dean, one of your revenue sources for the company is actually solar.
Correct.
It's one of the three. I think it's the smallest one of the three currently. You started it roughly 3 or 4 years ago. Just take us through the vision there, why you got into it, and and how it really works with your company overall.
I think having a youthful workforce of quality engineers means that you can cross-train them in different areas. And one of the things that we have done is cross-trained our engineers to handle the whole thing of solar engineering, along with hiring persons who graduated from the HART system. And because we saw where there would be need for solar engineering in Jamaica for corporate companies who were complaining that their utilities were high.
Right.
So there is a need for that. And why go overseas to source the system to be installed when you have capable, qualified engineers here that can install a system for you at lower price point and provide you with good technical support services.
Okay. Does Konnexx actually buy directly some of these solar, let's say panels, equipment, or do you find that you're in a particular niche or strategy where you do mostly the architecture, the engineering side, what role does Konnexx really play?
Well, pretty much we stick to the engineering side where we would design and install and provide maintenance, but we do have several local suppliers that we work with to source the products for installation. And these products, we would test them ourselves to ensure that the integrity of them is good, and before we actually install it in our customer locations.
Right. And so, listening to you, Dean, is this really the company kind of staying, in what you're great at, your niche, and kind of staying in your lane?
Well, pretty much our original lane was the whole thing of telecom engineering / IT support. So looking at solar engineering, we didn't see it as a risk. We saw it as a need for Jamaica in terms of investing in this area, of having our own local engineers to do the installs. And I think other companies that are out there are looking at doing similar things, which is good for Jamaica.
But what's interesting though is that one of the common denominators between the three revenue streams, and we're talking about solar now, is the engineering. You've mentioned the words design, like architecture, engineering, and it seems to be, where everything is kind of coming back to. Is that accurate?
Yes. You know what? At Konnexx, we love to build things, and we love to maintain things, and we love to install. So we will stick to that.
And you like to design it.
And the design
and
part
deliver
of it too, yes.
Great. Okay. Your YouTube ads are rocking.
Yes,
okay.
sir. Thank you.
So, with renewables, and on this topic, because it's just so fast moving again, similar to telecoms, but a different branch, is how does Konnexx stay relevant also with renewables? They say like Moore's law, the cost keeps coming down and down and down, but how does Konnexx really stay, relevant?
Well, you have to find good manufacturers to work with and suppliers. So one of the things that we did 2 years ago, we sent some of our engineers to China to actually meet with a few manufacturers and suppliers to understand our needs, and also for us to understand from their point what is it we need to do to drive down costs. And this is what we did, and we had some useful partnership, and we also engaged with suppliers outside of Germany also, which Germany is known for its strong engineering.
Yes.
And we had a partnership, or still do, a partnership with Lawrence out of Germany. We went there, met with them, and they would give us access to technical support, their products, and so on, which is, it's very good. And you have to keep your staff continuously updated with the new training that is out there, because even with solar, the technology has changed somewhat, so you have to keep abreast in the game, and relevant, yes, and we continue to do that.
Since inception or the last decade, what really is your most glorious, satisfying moment? What is the the Dean Nevers Konnexx moment that has given you the most passion and relevance, to you and your team, that sticks out there?
I think after the hurricanes 2 years ago in the Caribbean that devastated a few Caribbean islands, and we were able to respond when Digicel wanted us to help to rebuild the infrastructure for our fellow Caribbean people, and we were able to respond quickly and in a positive way. And the project went very well in terms of us restoring service, working alongside Digicel. And I think for me and the team members, we felt good, because when you go to another person's country in a devastating situation and you see what they have to live through, and you're able to go there, work in those situations, and help them to overcome whilst rebuilding their network, which, as you know, the internet is everything nowadays, you know? So I mean, we felt very good in doing that, and we had to do that across several Caribbean islands over the last 2 years.
So the company's credibility really grew. You got that stamp of approval, and really, as you said, when people are sleeping, if they need someone to deliver, they call on you.
Yes.
Excellent. And with saying all of that, you've grown so much in this 15, 16 years period. Would you, or is the company considering going public at all?
We have looked at it recently, but it's just a browse, really. We're open to discussion with our banker, but it's not something that we have gone or we have dig too deep in. We're just looking at it right now.
Right.
So I cannot say. Let's see what happens within the next year.
Who really is your biggest competitor now? Are there any competitors in this space in Jamaica?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So there's nobody for you to buy right now?
Pretty much. We try to provide the best quality service, and if there is need for us to expand to do more, we discuss it with our financial advisors, and we have our partners we work with to get the relevant skill set, and that's how we grow.
Okay. And is there any larger company that might want to buy you?
Well, I'm not aware of it, but
Okay.
I mean, you can never tell.
Okay, great. And with you being so successful, and lots of young entrepreneurs now are looking to, especially with Jamaica since 2014 is on a very nice trajectory, and they're trying to decide, do I stay in my job, do I make this jump? What is your advice to them?
Having knowledge is very important about your environment, and it's not just about, as persons would say, Google it. We have other resources available locally that you can use. You can read the Development Bank report to see what the trends are in Jamaica. Look at the JAMPRO website, which is a useful tool to look at areas of investments that are needed, and it is a choice if you're up to the hard work.
And Dean, if you could do it all over again, and some of the things you've learned on the way, would you do anything differently as Dean Nevers?
Yes, I think I would get more rest.
What are your investment tips? Where are you investing?
For me I think it's important to invest in Jamaica. And in saying that, and you will know this more than anyone else, the stock market is very important.
What stocks are you buying now?
It's better for me not to say, because I'm a risk taker, and my stocks might not be doing well right now, so I don't want anyone to.
So you're going to keep that for the secret sauce until our next time we meet?
But what I'll do say is, look at the environment around you. Look at these reports. Look at the DBJ report.
Are you buying Sagicor shares?
It's a possibility.
All right.
Yes.
Dean, it was great having you on Konnexx.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay.
That's it for another edition of Business Live Extra. Remember, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. We have been talking with Dean Nevers, Managing Director of Konnexx Services. Don't forget, you can watch us online at cvm.com/videos/Business Live Extra. Thanks for joining us.